Janice Combs, who is the mother of Puff Daddy, has released a statement about all of his allegations, the lawsuits, and everything else. And I'm about to read that statement here. She released this statement today, a couple hours ago, in response to everything that has been going on, but especially the new allegations of Puff raping a 9-year-old and the new lawsuits that are getting ready to come forward from that hotline that they created. Remember, they created a Puffy abuse hotline. If you were abused by Puff, all you got to do is call a hotline. And if you weren't abused by Puff, all you got to do is call the hotline and act like you were abused, and you're going to get put on the victim list. So she is responding to these allegations, and I will read her statement now. Janice Small Combs, the mother of Sean Combs, through her undersigned counsel and on the behalf of the Combs family, releases the following statement. I come to you today as a mother that is devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations made against my son, Sean Combs. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged, not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. To bear witness to what seems to be like a public lynching of my son before he has had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain that is too unbearable to put into words. Like every human being, my son deserves to have his day in court, to finally share his side, and to prove his innocence. I'm not here to portray my son as perfect, because he is not. He has made mistakes in his past, as we all have. My son may not have been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with an ex-girlfriend when the hotel's surveillance showed otherwise. Sometimes the truth and a lie become so closely intertwined that it becomes terrifying to admit one part of the story, especially when that truth is outside the norm or is too complicated to be believed. This is why I believe my son's civil legal team opted to settle the ex-girlfriend's lawsuit instead of contesting it until the end, resulting in a ricochet effect as the federal government used this decision against my son by interpreting it as an admission of guilt. It is important to recognize that none of us, regardless of our status, are immune to fear or mistakes. Not being entirely straightforward about one issue does not mean that my son is guilty of the repulsive allegations and the grave charges leveled against him. Many individuals who were wrongfully convicted and later exonerated had their freedom taken from them, not because they were guilty of the crimes they were accused of, but because they didn't fit the image of what society considers to be a good person. History has showed us how individuals can be wrongfully convicted due to their past actions or mistakes. Watching the world make jokes and laugh at my son's life crumbling before our eyes is something I can never forget. It is truly agonizing to watch the world turned against my son so quickly and easily over lies and misconceptions without ever hearing his side or affording him the opportunity to present his side. These lies thrown at him are motivated by those seeking a financial gain and not justice. These individuals saw how quickly my son's civil legal team settled his ex-girlfriend's lawsuit, so they believe they can receive a quick payday by falsely accusing my son. False allegations of sexual assault thwart true victims of sexual violence from getting the justice they deserve. To make matters worse, the federal government is now using these lies to prosecute my son. This injustice has been unbearable for our family. The worst part of this ordeal is watching my beloved son be stripped of his dignity, not for what he did, but what for people choose to believe about him. I ask his supporters, fans, colleagues, friends, and the public to not judge him before you've had a chance to hear his side. I beg you to think about those who have been wrongfully persecuted to remember that not everyone who has made mistakes in life deserves to have their entire existence judged by a single action or a few mistakes. My son is not the monster they've painted him to be, and he deserves the chance to tell his side. I can only pray that I'm alive to see him speak his truth and be vindicated. Respectfully submitted on behalf of Janice Smalls Combs and the Combs family. So there you have Mrs. Combs, Janice Combs, his mama, Puff Daddy's mama, speaking out and issuing a statement on all of the allegations. She says the rape allegations are false, and just because he beat Cassie does not mean he is a rapist or that he raped a 9-year-old, which is exactly what I've been saying. We can all agree that Puff is a violent man, or at least has been violent to women in the past. I believe he probably beat a lot of women up. I believe he beat men up, women up. I believe he was a jerk to a lot of people, but that does not mean that he raped a 9-year-old. And I hope that people can understand that two things can be true at once. Somebody can be violent, but that does not make them a rapist. Just because he beat Cassie does not mean he raped her or forced her to engage in orgies without her consent. And it does not make him a criminal enterprise just because he beat up his girlfriend. It's wrong. I don't condone it. And he should have went to jail for beating Cassie. But we have to wait on all facts. If proof comes out that he was raping a 9-year-old, whatever they do to him, they do to him. But as of right now, all we have are allegations. All we have are people running to call hotlines to get put on victim lists so that they can potentially get put onto a class action lawsuit and so that they could get paid. If I was raped as a 9-year-old, I would want that person in jail. I wouldn't be trying to sue. I'd be going to the police first and filing charges and then suing after I get the charges filed. And also I would have my parents locked up too for taking me there to get raped at Bad Boy Records and not pursuing charges against Puff. So it's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But like I said, we have to keep an open mind. We can all agree that Puff hasn't been the nicest person his entire life and he needs to repent. But I don't believe he raped a 9-year-old. And right now, in my eyes, he's innocent of all rape allegations until proven guilty. If we see a video of him beating and raping a woman, I take back all my statements. I'll say lock him up. He's a rapist. He's a woman beater. Don't give him no mercy. But as of right now, I do feel bad for him because he did beat Cassie. But I don't believe he raped a 9-year-old, and nobody should be accused of things that they did not do. It's not right. It's not right to put that on that man's name that he raped 9-year-olds out here if he is innocent of it, which I believe that he is. So anyway, we're going to keep up with this entire story. We're going to continue to keep up with it. I think it's going to be a long ride. I think this trial is going to probably take about 2 years to start. So we're going to have a long time to discuss it and figure out what's truthful and what's false. Anyway, shout out to Puff.